can be very taxing and harsh on the body. However, I have not been going through all those crazy experiences that a lot of the patients do. I feel great. I'm doing great. My levels, my labs are looking great. I'm exercising. That really helped me a lot. And I think it helped me a lot in my healing, because when I first started, I was a mess. Like I mentioned in that lupus video, I didn't think I was going to get out of the hospital alive. Greetings, fellow survivors, thrivers, and healers. I am Natura Thaset, founder of Thrivers Inspired Healing, and I hope you all are having a great day. So today I will be elaborating a little bit more on my personal health journey. As many of you have already seen my first video, which was my health journey on lupus and how it has affected my kidneys to the point where it was end-stage renal disease and having to go on to hemodialysis. So if you haven't seen that video, you'll need to catch up. All right, so I'm gonna link it up. Okay, so basically, what is the point of dialysis? Dialysis basically takes on some of the process of what the kidneys do. So for the most part, dialysis is basically cleansing the blood, cleansing, your body from natural waste that happens. So for example, if you may have heard of this, if you have too much B vitamins, you might urinate the excess of it, right? So basically the kidneys would be doing something of that nature. Dialysis would have to take the place of the kidneys that are not working. So how has dialysis affected me? So from a physical standpoint, the kidneys are responsible for not only getting rid of the waste, but also responsible for hormone production with vitamin D, hormone production with replenishing blood cells, and as I mentioned before, eliminating excess waste or excess electrolytes, as well as helping to balance electrolytes, water, and it also helps to regulate blood pressure. So for an individual such as myself who has been doing dialysis for quite a few years, it's not only the dialysis that we have to utilize in order to make sure that our bodies are in a state of homeostasis, which is balance. But we would also, for example, as I mentioned before, with the electrolyte balance, we have to watch what we eat. So for example, one of there's like 3 top things that a lot of patients really look at. Salt levels, right? So we have to not take too much salt, like for example, adding extra salt on food. Okay. Eating way too salty foods, because that would result in edema, which is swelling, for example, of the ankles, the feet, swelling of the face, or, swelling in different areas of the body because it's water retention. The kidneys aren't, getting rid of it. And of course, that leads to making sure that we're not taking in too much liquid. So for example, hot summer days can be a challenge. For me personally, I can kind of feel when I've had too much, like I start feeling a little bloated, or it's like, okay, I had enough, or whatever the case is. So I kind of know, but some patients really have strict, like you can't have more than 12 ounces of liquid. And that can include foods such as having watermelon or any really water-based foods, because anything watery you're taking in can be added on. So, it's dependent on how much you're urinating. So if for me, like I'm still urinating, so, I may not have as much restriction as someone else who is not urinating at all. And for some individuals that can be the case. So back with the electrolytes, potassium, you have to watch your potassium. So as I mentioned in the lupus video, being careful of eating high potassium foods such as avocados. As I mentioned before, I love me some avocados. Can't have too many of those. I can only have a little bit. Potatoes, French fries. Got to be very careful with eating out at restaurants because a lot of them are have foods that are very full of salt, potassium, all the excess ingredients to preservative, right? The preservatives. So that's another thing. Phosphorus. Phosphorus is also another issue that we'd have to watch out for. Too much phosphorus. So again, potatoes are another high phosphorus food. A lot of a lot of root vegetables would have those. And there's like so many different things. So we have to be cognizant of it. Because if we have, for example, if you have too much potassium, you run the risk of having heart issues, really bad heart issues. Too much phosphorus can result in calcification of arteries, and it really can affect different parts of the body that is just like super painful. And so so when kidney function is not at its best, the dialysis can help to pull some of that excess electrolytes and water, of course, but we still have to do our part outside of treatments in order to make sure that we stay within healthy range. So far, I do pretty well. And also for the phosphorus, most of us have to take some sort of binder. It took me a long time before I actually had to get on some sort of binder, right? So some binders can be like on a calcium acetate, and that's something that we would have to take. Let's say, for example, if I have a really big meal, I would have to take some binders in order to bind the phosphorus so that it would come out when, number 2 happens, right? It's not like you really see it or anything, but it just helps it's part of the natural elimination process. Okay. Another thing, as I had mentioned before, is the anemia. Now with the anemia, the kidneys do send a message to the bone marrow to say, hey, you need to make more red blood cells. If the kidneys are not working correctly, then that would have to be done through an actual hormone medicine, because it's basically the kidneys sending out that hormone to the bone marrow and say, hey, let's go, we need these red blood cells. So we would be given a hormone medicine that would help to replenish the blood cells that the kidneys are not doing. Also, with the vitamin D, we'd have to we cannot just go out in the sun and just get our recommended, vitamin D that's going to make our body work well, especially because vitamin D helps with the immune system health amongst calcium balances in the body as well. So since we cannot just always go out and get the best of all of our vitamin D, we'd have to take an active form of the vitamin D called calcitriol. So, typically when going to treatments, they would give us this supplement. Basically, that's how it is. So there's a lot of different medicines that we would have to take. Depends on every individual and, creatinine level, glomerular filtration. They would look at those different levels in the blood to make sure that the kidneys are doing what it's supposed to do. If, let's say, for example, an individual does not do the dialysis treatments, or the kidneys are not working, or for whatever reason, they don't get the proper treatment for the kidneys, then it can lead to sepsis and all types of other serious health issues. So it's a very serious thing. So Without further ado, I think I will show you a quick clip. All right, guys, so you see me walking in and I'm waiting in the waiting room. And here I am going to the scale. So we all have to weigh when we come in so that we know how far we are from our dry weight. Now, the dry weight is basically how much you weigh without all the excess fluid on. Here we have my handy dandy blanket and my headphones because it can be very cold and loud. Here you see me getting ready to wash my fistula. Fistula is the access. And I will explain a little bit more on why it looks the way it does after this clip. But basically, I am washing off the lidocaine that I put on there. And for those that don't know, the lidocaine is basically to numb the area, and the plastic around it was basically this, like the saran wrap, just to keep it in place while I have my clothes on, obviously. So washing it with soap and water. Okay, so here you see the tech is feeling around the fistula, making sure that it has a thrill, which is basically feeling the blood flow. And we're also looking at what areas that I feel most comfortable having the needles inserted. Okay, so the technician just cleaned the access with a alcohol pad, and now they are inserting the needle. So these needles are actually bigger than the ones that you would get when you're going to your basic lab test phlebotomist, to get some blood work. So again, cleaning the other part of the access. 2 needles have to be inserted because when the blood is being cleaned in the machine, one of the tubes is going into the machine, pulling the blood out, and the other part is pulling, the cleaned blood, the filtered blood, back into the body. So as you see, when the needles were stuck in, you've seen the little blood flash. That's normal for everyone, no matter if you're a dialysis patient or not. It's also a good sign that there's good blood flow. And of course, you may have seen the little air bubble there, but that is pulled out when the tech twists something at the end of twists the knob at the end of the needle, the tubes of the needles. So here, as you can see, my needles have been connected to the tubing on the machine that helps to pull the blood and to have it circulate. And here, they're just fixing it to my shirt so that it doesn't fall off if I move around or anything like that. And this is the situation for a few hours. So here I'm just showing you how the blood is recirculated. In the beginning, you see how the saline is going in and out because saline is necessary in order to prevent any air bubbles going into the veins. So here you just see what the machine looks like. At the bottom left, you might see a clear bag with a blue writing on it. That's basically like a bicarbonate bag. Our bodies naturally produce that to help to balance the acidity in our blood. So here, I attempted to show you guys how the blood is returned, how the saline pushes the blood back into our bodies. And now this is the part for takeoff. So the lines have been disconnected from the machine, and here I am getting my glove on because I will need that to hold down the sites where the needles were to make sure that all bleeding is stopped. Again, the tape is removed. For the needles, there are all different types of sizes. I have one that's like considered the middle size. These are not the biggest needles. They're actually bigger size needles than this, and they're also smaller sizes. So it really depends on what the patient needs. Usually people start out with a smaller size. They want people to be on a bigger size. However, this size has been pretty sufficient for me. Another thing that I forgot to mention earlier in the video was that when it comes to blood pressure, which is constantly being checked during treatment every half hour, a lot of patients, most of us, have to take blood pressure medicine because the kidneys, as I had mentioned before, are responsible for balancing and controlling blood pressure. So if the kidneys are not working correctly, then blood pressure medicine will be needed. So as you have seen, I had put my finger down on one of the holes from where the needles were located, and now the other one is being taken out. So unclip, and the tech will be pulling the needle out, and then I will be holding both parts of the access. And that's basically it. Again, back to the scale to see how much I was able to take off during treatment. And boom, done. Okay, so as you have seen, it is, you're sitting in the chair. You see the needles have been inserted into my arm, and you've probably noticed that my arm looks a little swole. Well, it's what's called an access. So every dialysis patient has some form of an access. The form that I have is called an AV fistula, which is basically a surgery that I had. I'm going to show you. Probably see a little bit of the fistula right here, right? So basically in this part of the arm right here, there was a small surgical incision right here. And what they did was they tied a venous and arterial together. And, it took a couple of weeks for it to mature enough so that they can use the needles in order to get enough blood flow in order for me to get the proper amount of electrolytes and excess fluid removed, right? Well, again, having a fistula like this, and I have a super big fistula. That's why y'all won't see me wearing no sleeveless shirts. Okay, I might have sleeveless on one side. Okay, get a little creative, but me personally, I wouldn't do it. Some individuals do because they may think they don't care, this is them. Or some people, their fistula is not that noticeable, or it has a hard time growing. Mine grew quick, and in fact, I actually had a reduction a couple of years ago. So I actually wrote an article on the thriversinspire.com website, so you can see the before and after pictures of how big this thing was looking. I mean, it looked like it was ready to pop. So I went in for the surgery, and I talk all about that. So you definitely can check it out. And I may actually discuss that experience in another future video. So other patients may get a catheter. And when I first started, I did have the catheter. So you might see a little bit of a scar right here where I used to have it. And that was really uncomfortable because I had to wear, shirts like up here. Some people don't care, but I wasn't about that life. So everybody's different. And if you're about that life, that's cool because we all do for ourselves. Okay, so and other individuals may have a catheter put into the abdominal cavity. It's called a peritoneal access, and that doesn't deal so much with the blood like these access do with the ones in the chest or the arm. However, most of the time it's just a fluid exchange. So they would just be doing fluid outside of the from inside to outside of the abdominal cavity. And, you know, some people sleep all night with it. They have a machine at home. I personally chose not to do that because, you know, one, it's a lot of space. And then two, I'm one of those people that like to separate work from home. So I would prefer to just go someplace, get it done, and then come back and, you know, just forget about it. That's my personal preference. And for me, 3 times a week, okay? 3 times a week, 2 hours and 45 minutes. That's considered a short time. A lot of people, I was at 1.3 hours. Time was cut down. Some people have to do 4 hours or even more. So it's a very taxing. It can be very taxing and harsh on the body. However, for whatever reason, I have not been going through all those crazy experiences that a lot of the patients do. I don't know why. Okay. It could be because of the way I take care of myself. I'm so on my labs. When I say I'm on my labs, the next day, after they take them blood draws, the next time I go there, you know, the blood draws to find out like what the lab is, like what your blood levels are, how much calcium, so they know how to adjust your medicines and all that stuff. I'm one of the first ones to ask, what's my levels? Because I want to make sure I'm on top of it. I don't want, you know, something like a potassium to be super high before, you know, I'm notified. I like to know right away. So, but that's me because I want to be able to make the changes. So far, I've been pretty stable. I haven't had anything wildly crazy. So some people get really, really nauseous. Some people, they're very, very tired after treatments. I used to be like that. It's not so much anymore. I think because I figured out like what I can eat, you know, before treatment, and then, you know, I'll be okay after treatment. I already have food set for me, whether I cooked the day before, and, you know, I cook enough to have like at least the next day's worth of food. So that way I don't have to worry about cooking. So that has really helped me. Oh, and also when I first started the treatment, I had lost about 20 pounds. And I did mention this in the lupus video. I have lost 20 pounds. I am still working on gaining my weight. I've gained a little bit. And part of my regimen with gaining, it's very tricky because, as I mentioned before, there's certain foods that we can't eat. A lot of people, you know, would say, yeah, you can eat the pasta, eat the avocados, the potatoes, and stuff like that. I got to be careful about those levels. So I can't just be eating them. My protein levels have been good, and they do stress protein. I don't, you know, I eat what's enough for me. My proteins are always at or slightly above the recommended levels of 4. So I'm doing pretty good. I do exercise. And some people may not feel like they want to exercise or whatever the case is, and that's on you. Always speak with your doctor, of course, but I do exercise. And I will show you guys a little bit in my next video on the exercise regimen that I do. And I think you're going to enjoy it. In fact, some of you may even want to do it yourselves. Okay. And I do some yoga as well. Yoga, stretching, the basic stuff, but I also do some other stuff too. And I'll talk to you about that. Okay. And another thing, so mentally, as I have mentioned before, it was I was super sad. I mean, one day I went into a doctor's office and I wouldn't stop crying. And it was like, you know, I don't like crying. I don't like the way I feel. I feel like everything is, you know, like my whole body gets hot and stuff like that. But, you know, I know it's important for release. And that's exactly what my body was doing. Any pain, and it felt like it, any pain, mental, physically, emotional, any pain that I felt, it felt like it was just all coming out. I couldn't stop crying even if I wanted to. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, but it came out. And then the process of healing was able to ensue after that. So, yeah, it took a lot. You know, I really needed individuals to be there, to console me, to comfort me, you know, to ask, what's up? Hey, do you need anything? You know, a lot of patients do appreciate that because, you know, like me personally, I may not always like want to put stuff out there. It's taken me a lot just to put this video out here. Believe me, if you knew how long it took me to do the first video. But anyway, so I'm thankful for those who were there for me, who, you know, were understanding and, you know, asked how I was doing, checked up on me, and, you know, were able to provide that comfort. You really do see when you're at your lowest who is and who isn't there for you. I'm sure we've all had those experiences one way or another. But after I got through the emotional cleansing, I felt much, much better. There have always been some times where I just, you know, felt sad or was just like, oh man, like this has been the situation. And, you know, me, for those of you who do know me, I always try to look on the bright side. And, you know, I always try to see and focus on my dreams and the things that I want to accomplish. That really helped me a lot. And I think it helped me a lot in my healing, because when I first started, I was a mess. Like I mentioned in that lupus video, I didn't think I was going to get out of the hospital alive. And now I'm out here working out, eating right, you know, and helping to connect with other individuals who may be going through the same things or just want to learn something new. So, you know, these have been my experiences. Another thing, because of me, you know, having to do it 3 times a week, right? It's a set schedule, can affect with, let's say, any other things that come up, any schedules, if someone has a wedding, graduation, whatever, things of that nature. The good thing is that the clinic does allow to change your schedule. So for example, you'll say, nah, man, you know, I got something planned on such and such a day. Can I come the next day? You know, you just let them know. Just give them a little time. Like, let's say if you know, like a week in advance or something like that, you know, that helps. Most of the time, staff is more than willing to work with you because they really encourage us to live our best lives the best we can. Okay, guys, so that's basically it. That's my personal experience. I'm doing very well. I feel great. I'm doing great. My levels, my labs are looking great. I'm exercising, I'm eating as best as I can considering the circumstances, and I've always been a pretty healthy eater, so it was just making a little adjustment here and there. Moderation is the key. Another thing is I pay attention to my body. I pay attention to how I feel, and I take it easy, so I honor my energy. What do I mean by that? So for example, after treatment, I'm not going to go out and run a marathon because according to what they say, technically having a treatment is considered running a marathon. Okay. So what I do is, you know, I make sure I rest, or I just don't, plan anything for the days that I have to go. You know, I'll just make sure I rest. If something comes up, like I said, I can switch my schedule around. So I do have some flexibility, not as much as I'd like, but you know, so far it's been working for me, and I feel great. I mean, everything. Lupus, what lupus? You know, like that's how I feel. I just feel like at this point it's just a little bit going through the motions, and but also, you know, working on my dreams and just living my best life. So I hope that this has been a helpful and inspiring educational video for you. If you do know someone who may be experiencing some difficulties with dialysis or kidney disease or anything of that nature, please do. You can ask questions. I am more than happy to answer them. If you think that I missed anything, please do let me know so that I can address them for you, because I'm more than happy to answer your questions. Okay, so with that being said, I hope you all stay active in your self-care, and until next time.